So, a very good evening to all our masterclass participants. This is our usual Saturday evening session, 4 o'clock. We are on the 26th of October. A very high calorie, festive week coming up. Next one, Diwali. Market will be, I think, shut on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. But the mood is not like that. Generally, we would have liked to see a pre-Diwali rally, but this is clearly a pre-Diwali discount. Diwali discount, right? So let's take a look at the Nifty first, all of us. Understand what's in store. I would blow out the weekly chart, okay? And I've got a couple of channels. I did some understanding of the erstwhile corrections, and this was the most meaningful multi-legged correction that we had gone through, right? बाद में आते हैं. Let's talk about where we stand. We closed almost at the lowest point of the week. There was a mild little bounce back yesterday, Friday, late afternoon for the last, I think, 45 minutes. Infosys was one of the main reason for that. If I drop an info line from the high to the low, we will see that this particular correction is now 8.5% high to low in the last 4 weeks, with a 60% kind of, or 60-degree kind of an slope on the downside. So 8.5 towards 10% correction in 4 weeks is a pretty healthy index correction. If I look at the past, you will notice that in the past, many a times it has given a 4-5 week kind of correction, and it had been that 7, 8, 9% kind of corrections. Now, my concern, your concern, of course, will be that are we headed for something like this or not? That's the main thing, or something like this or not, which is a multi-week, multi-legged correction. This was not exactly multi-legged correction. This was almost like a double topish. So इसको ignore करते, इस दोनों को consider करते. Let's consider these two, and quickly, very quickly, if I drop an info line just to understand the extent of these two particular corrections, then this one is around 16.5%, 17% high to low, and this is around 10%, 11%. More or less, we are coming close to that. This lasted for 16 weeks. This lasted for 34 weeks. This came after a significant rally, which was the COVID low. The 17% correction, which lasted for 34 weeks, came after a significant rally. The 10% correction, which lasted for 16 weeks, was not after a significant rally. On the other hand, it was more or less a range-bound market. So this correction was a part of this consolidation. This correction was a part of retracing this rally. ठीक है? So clearly, ये 16-17% correction तो बनता है, because this was 150% rally. This was 150% upside. All right. Keeping this in mind, if you and I come to the current situation, इन दोनों को delete कर देता हूँ. It's too much on the charts to handle. If we come to the current situation, the current correction that we are going through for the last 4 weeks is coming after a rally. Okay, and this rally, in this particular rally, there has already been one correction and there has been a consolidation. थोड़ा सा clutter लग रहा है, मुझे पता है, because I have couple of channels, lines, volume profiles. मुझे साफ दिख रहा है, मैं आपको समझाता हूँ. So this consolidation was very, very narrow. This correction, however, was broken down into one leg, complete retracement back to the high, and then the second leg. चलिए निकाल लेते हैं. Let's just find out what is the high to low correction of this one. 7.3%, 14 weeks, because it was multi-legged. In this correction, the first leg was around 4%. And वो फिर से और 3% correct होता है. We are already down almost 10%. So the extent of the correction, the slope of the correction, losing almost 10% in 4 weeks is quite significant. It's not something, oh ये तो वापस आ जाएगा easily. It's not like that. Another point, I don't know if you can track markets, if you do track markets live throughout the days. I do. I honestly did not see a single 1 hour or 2 hour of proper heavyweight buying in this sell-off. Means bounce back. मुझे तो कोई meaningful bounce back, कोई decent index stock से नहीं दिखा. What I noticed was big moves due to earnings, both on the upside as well as the downside. जो आपको 3, 4, 5% moves दिखे होंगे, most of them would be an outcome of the earnings, or else they were all on the downside. ठीक है? So it's not a very healthy market. It's a broad market sell-off जहाँ पे decliners will be significantly higher than the advance. अभी levels पे बात करते हैं. So the weekly chart has gone through a bit of correction. This shaded region is a 52-week linear regression line. More or less the trend, the structure of the chart is still positive. What I sense, and I think I must have spoken about this earlier, that this particular correction may take us to test the upper border of this previous congestion, जहाँ से इसने breakout दिया था. अब लग रहा है very very high possibility कि यहाँ तक तो वो आना चाहेगा. Okay, I have few channels drawn. These are very interesting trend channels. If I remove them, it will make your life easier to visualize what I'm looking at. I have couple of anchored VWAPs. I have couple of volume profiles. I have this particular zone. I have a confluence. I have the anchored VWAP, which is coming close to this zone. I have a volume profile, which is at the lower border of the zone. This zone is around 23,300, and on the lower side, it's around 22,600, 650. चलिए 500 कर लेते हैं, just to remember clearly. Around 22,500, 23,300, 700-800 point का range है. Whether it will come down all the way within the zone, to the lower border of the zone, to the upper border of the zone, or यहाँ से घुमा देगा, that I don't know. That the only price will tell us. But the possibility of a retest is pretty high. So these are the levels to keep an eye from a weekly charts point of view. If we look at the daily chart, which clearly has given you a two-legged correction already, first leg consolidation, second leg, and in masterclass we've been able to make some use of the second leg on the downside, few shots. You will not see any significant divergences or any significant sign of selling, slowdown, bottoming out. नहीं है. There's nothing like that. This was your election results situation, and if I use a bit of fractal, then what I can do is I can drop a simple fib retracement. I think this is a very meaningful fib retracement. I say this is a very meaningful fib retracement because if you see with me, the first bounce back of this correction was from the 38 point. It has closed below the 50. This is the 61, and this is my magic combination of 76.4 and 78.6. I personally love this zone as a support. Okay. Let's see. We'll keep these levels in mind. The good thing about this zone is more or less coming to the same zone. यही वो consolidation है. यही वो weekly consolidation जो आपको दिखाया था, वो daily पे यही है. So घुमा फिरा के 23,500, 23,300 मे बी वहाँ तक ना भी जा सकते, हो सकता है 24K से ही घुमा दे. But as of now, do we have anything on our charts which tells us यहाँ से घूमेगा? No. Nifty, no. Few stocks have started to look interesting. Reliance, TCS, both of them have started to look interesting, but I cannot expect them to bounce back and reverse the Nifty right away. So we'll keep an eye on the Nifty. Of course, next week. The view is bearish. It's a little too late to go short. Be selective in your shorts. Too early to go long also. Again, be very, very selective in your longs. And long वही जा पाएगा जो contrarian trader है. If you're a contrarian trader, then only you will be excited to look for longs. If you're a pullback trader, breakout trader, दिल्ली दूर है because setup बनने में बहुत वक्त लगेगा. ठीक है? So as I've been telling for a month now, please stay on the sidelines. If you're a long only cash market trader, this market is not for you to take any action actively. Wait, things will play out, setups will, take a shape, but till then you need to exercise patience. So do that, please. We have the US elections. It can be very tricky early half of November to deal with. The first week of जो दिवाली का हफ्ता है, उसके बाद वाला जो वीक है, I think it can be really, really interesting. So ज़्यादा कुछ करने का कोशिश मत कीजिए. Coming to the sectors. Mid and small caps have done a decent catch-up game. They had bounced back sharp and they gave away equally sharp. Most of their weekly charts have got synced towards the downside, the mid cap as well as the small cap. The good thing about structurally हमारे charts अभी भी structurally, when I look at the 52-week linear regression slope, it's still predominantly bullish. So we can still expect a bounce back sometime. If we take a look at the sectors, एक काम करता हूँ, I have it created in different templates. It will make our life easier. This is our all-important Bank Nifty. This is CNX Finance. This is the private sector banks, and this is the PSU Bank. You can clearly see the underperformance, and we've spoken about this quite a bit. SBI is at very interesting supports. One stock, if it breaks, can cause more damage to the Bank Nifty. Of course, the PSU banks. SBI पे ध्यान रखिएगा if you are looking to trade a breakdown. If you like to short a stock जो अपना सपोर्ट तोड़ के नीचे जा रहा है, SBI is one thing. You should have it on your watch list. अगर सपोर्ट होल्ड कर जाता है, we might get a bounce. But coming to Bank Nifty, you don't have a very good sync. Trend momentum is predominantly on the downside. It has given you a breakout failure. And by the way, if I change this to the daily time frame, these are the weekly. If I change it to the daily time frame, what you will notice is a clean sell-off from the Bank Nifty creating the next leg on the downside. So this is not a very good picture. Heiken is suggesting further downside. So Bank Nifty is not that great. Coming to the rest of the sectors, मैं quickly बोल देता हूँ. I follow it in an anti-clockwise manner. Clockwise manner. IT being the digital घड़ी देख के दिमाग से ही निकल गया. Clockwise and anti-clockwise. Nevertheless, the clockwise manner positioning is IT, Bank Nifty, Finance के बाद the sectors which have the heaviest weightage is IT, फिर energy, फिर FMCG, फिर auto, and likewise in a clockwise manner, I have these 8 sectors. एक मिनट चुपचाप वीकली चार्ट्स को देख लेते हैं. जस्ट विजुअल इंट्रोस्पेक्शन. ठीक है. फर्स्ट थिंग दैट स्ट्राइक्स मी, IT and pharma are the least affected in this particular sell-off. Do you agree? IT and pharma are the least affected. If they are the least affected, in terms of relative strength, scaling, ranking, they will be higher. Okay. Can we go long on them when the market bounces back? Yes, provided they don't crack, provided they don't lead the next sell-off. So if we take a look at IT, if we take a particular look at IT, then it's range bound. The trend momentum are holding fine. I would say it is a possibility of a breakout if the market sustains. Pharma, on the other hand, is really stretched. Has started to give us negative red icon. So pharma थोड़ा सा mixed है. IT भी mixed है. Wipro, Infosys showing decent strength. TCS decent weakness. So both the packs are, not heavily skewed on the positive side. But they are the best picks, especially IT, if we get a breakout. I think a lot depends on Infosys. यहाँ पे भी. जैसे SBI, a lot depends on SBI from the PSU banking pocket. A lot depends on Infosys. Keep an eye on these two stocks next week. Energy has given a fresh breakdown. This pack is expected to weaken further. Any kind of a bounce back from energy, you can expect fresh selling. OMCs, Reliance. So this pack is weak. FMCG, consumer durables, disappointing. Especially FMCG. The way stocks like Tata Consumer Durables, Hindustan Unilever, Dabur, Godrej Consumer Products have corrected recently, it's a slight disappointing because when the markets correct, we tend to find some hope in defensives. And it was the defensives like FMCG which cracked so bad. Anyways, will the polarity play out? Will the erstwhile high act as a low? Too early to say. Don't try to act on a short-term trading point of view. Do not look for FMCG unless you're a contrarian trader and looking for a buy opportunity. Keep an eye on Godrej Consumer Products. Interesting formation on the daily chart. I did not find it. One of my students today morning shared it in my personal community and I liked the chart he shared. So I'm sharing it with you. Godrej Consumer Products. Auto and real estate are the biggest damage we've seen on a close basis for the last 4 weeks. Auto has given you a breakout, failure, has fallen, any kind of a pullback, just like energy. इस दोनों को same खाते में रखिएगा, sell on a rise. When you see the bounce back in auto, when you see the bounce back in energy, अगर वो bounce back sustain नहीं होता है and you see fresh weakness, these are the two pockets you would like to go short because they are well synced on the downside. Realty also falls in the same category. However, from a derivatives trader point of view, मेरे options limited है to DLF, Oberoi, Godrej Properties. उसमें से DLF enjoys the maximum liquidity and movement. Oberoi is also not that bad. But Oberoi in terms of a trend is very strong. So realty is weakening. Auto and energy, they all fall in the same. All three, I will say, falls in the same category. Metals can be tricky. This one down here, यहाँ पे देखिए. Because metals is creating what we can clearly visually see is some kind of a wide consolidation on the weekly time frame. Is this a double top? Well, देख के तो लग रहा है. But double top का confirmation के लिए we have to wait for this breakdown and etc. So too early to go bearish on metals and not enough evidence to go bullish on metals. Keep it on the sidelines. Unless you have a proper setup on a sale or a Hindalco, that's a different story. CNX metal ke chart weekly हमें clearly are giving us signs of a range bound market which is weakening with slight signs of fresh weakening. So हमारा ध्यान mainly auto, energy, realty पे होगा to sell on a rise. Any kind of short term bounce back if we get breakdowns short, I will not suggest unless you tend to do that. इसीलिए SBI और Infosys पे आप ध्यान रख सकते हो. Consumer durables, I will not suggest so because this chart is not that weak. Maybe on a pullback. FMCG consumer durables, I would ask you to avoid. Check next week when we meet again Saturday. Check whether the strength of IT continues or not, especially IT and pharma. Of course, दोनों में से IT matters the most because banks के बाद सबसे important weightage तो यही आता है. We can see a sectoral rotation in the selling also. जैसे we observe sectoral rotation on the upside, we can see sectoral rotation on the downside as well. Generally ऐसा होता नहीं है, because when the markets overall go SAR, down, सब टूटते हैं mostly. वही हो रहा है. What I'm trying to say is, if we see a sectoral rotation of selling, matlab the banks slows down in selling, maybe a short-term bounce back. But during that day and during that time, if you see IT breaking down and pharma breaking down, iska matlab there is a proper sectoral rotational wise selling happening in the market. Then it is not good news. Then we are headed for much more than 10-12% correction. So nature of the correction, we have to read it, we have to understand it, and we have to make sense out of what we are heading towards next. Okay? So that's it from my side when it comes to the Nifty and the various sectoral indices. Now, like every Saturday, we are going to straight away go to your doubts question and see if we can find any rare opportunity for next week.